Looks like I'm the big winner today. Look who I've got with me.
I'm excited to be here.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey everybody, welcome to No Vacancy Live. We got Dr. Producer Suzanne in the house. I, of course, am Glenn Hausman. Excited that all of you are spending some time with us today, either watching us or listening to us wherever you get your podcast. Suzanne, how are you?
I'm fabulous. I'm excited for the weather to start changing and not get as humid or as seasonal.
Yeah, you're completely the opposite. I feel like you would have been my advocate before you left Boston for Florida. But yeah, no, it's starting to change here, and it's like getting chilly at night. It's down in the 50s now at night up here in New York. It's just not right. I had to put on my full leisure wear the other day. My sweatpants, my sweatshirt, the whole thing. It's getting bad.
Your leisure wear. I love it. Yeah, we don't believe in sweatpants or sweatshirts.
All right. So I am excited today because one of the things that I like doing is highlighting these trends that I know are emerging, but the wider world just hasn't seen it yet. And, Suzanne, I've been a big advocate of mocktails, for example. I think, for people like me, you don't want to have all of these drinks. You want to mix it up, still enjoy creativity and stuff like that. I'm seeing the same thing happen now when it comes to food. I don't know about you, Suzanne, you trying to eliminate meats and stuff like that from your life from time to time?
I'm trying to really look at what it is that I'm eating and what I'm feeding my family. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing from our guests today.
Yeah, today we are going to be focused on making hoteliers more profitable by taking a look and considering vegan cuisine. And to do that, we got Meredith Marin, CEO of Vegan Hospitality. Meredith, so great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Glenn, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so this is exciting. So I am excited about what's going on in the vegan universe. And to me, the big moment happened when Resorts World in Las Vegas last year opened up Crossroads Kitchen, an entire plant-based restaurant. And I'm like, now the world is starting to pay attention. How are you feeling about where American society is, for example, when we're talking about this trend?
I am very excited at where we're going. I started working in hospitality, pushing for vegan options back in 2017. And I started in the Caribbean. So I'm in Aruba right now and started out there too. And I helped make Aruba the most vegan-friendly island in the Caribbean before veganism was even mainstream in New York City. That's where I'm originally from. So I started very early when the trend was just starting to pick up. Now, of course, the trend is becoming more mainstream. So it's not just vegans or vegetarians that the reason that companies are moving to a more plant-forward program, it's not because of this niche audience. It's because of sustainability. It's because of health. And it's because of the culinary creativity that's available now with the plant-based movement, with all of these different kinds of ingredients. So it's a lot more than just a trend to cater to a small audience.
Yeah, Suzanne?
Great opportunity. And I love hearing how the sustainability aspect comes in here, because I think that's one of the pieces that we don't necessarily think of immediately. So why don't you share with us a little bit about how those two connect and how operators can make sure that that's infused into their food cuisine?
Sure. Well, I love to see you from Florida because I was just on a call with an organization I'm a part of, the Sustainable Events Network in Florida and the Caribbean. So we were there yesterday and talking through events that are now mandating vendors to have one vegan option at least, and actually labeling these menus for the low emissions meals. So there's so many connections between sustainability and plant forward food. One of the main connections is the emissions, the carbon emissions. So plant-based foods just naturally have lower emissions than animal-based foods. And of course, beef, veal, dairy, those are going to be the biggest offenders.
I know a lot of animals that have certain emissions that are very, very bad.
Yes. So the first thing that you can do if you are creating a menu or updating your menu, you can consider what to remove, of course. So you can consider removing the highest offenders or reducing portion sizes. But then you also need to think about what to replace them with. And you want to replace them with something that's, of course, low emission. So you'd want to choose a plant-based option. And Glenn, I was watching one of your shows a couple months ago, and you were speaking to two hotel chefs who were talking about a menu engineering strategy they use where they don't allow the vegan option to compete with the non-plant-based version of it. And that's a strategy I use as well. So for example, I'm making a menu right now. We're putting shrimp tacos on the menu. The only option is the vegan shrimp taco. We're not having it compete with the traditional shrimp taco.
Right.
So we're modifying options, but we're not having, this is the vegan option, this is the non-vegan option, and it's the same exact. We're looking at how can we introduce familiar options to the mainstream consumer, but in a way that's going to be lower emission for the environment.
Right. I love the sustainability angle. And I was at a great hotel last month. That's one of the most sustainable hotels in the entire country. But that's going to be a very special video. So that'll be coming out in like a month or so from now. But I'm seeing this trend overall. And I haven't really seen the connection between a sustainable hotel and the food you're serving in the restaurant outside the typical, well, we get everything within 250 miles or whatever it might be. So you're really elevating the dialogue on that issue.
Right. And it's a popular myth that local means sustainable when actually it's much more important what the food source is. So if you get local beef, it's still not as sustainable as a lentil steak, for example. So we do need to think through, greenwashing is a big topic. And part of my job at Vegan Hospitality is to make sure that companies aren't greenwashing and that they actually get support in implementing those plant-based commitments that they're making. And we've seen now, I don't know if you saw the post from IHG in China, that they've now committed to 700 hotels moving forward to 30% plant-based menus by 2025. So these are really lofty commitments.
3 months from now.
Exactly. Really lofty commitments. How are you going to scale that? Right. I operate a network of over 100 consultants in 25 countries. And so I know this is scalable, but it does take a lot of strategic planning and forethought and not just making that commitment, but how are you actually going to implement it?
All right, so let's go beyond the sustainability angle, because I want to really make the argument to hoteliers out there, the business-minded people out there. I already know chefs are on board a lot of time, and my hunch is that a lot of executive chefs have a hard time being able to do the sell on this, right? So I'm approaching it from this angle, and again, I'm a newbie. I don't really know. I don't know it's a fact, but I know it's true that there are a lot of people out there that want to have more options, that are traditional meat eaters like me, that have grown up in a meat and potatoes lifestyle and have been, raised to, if you ask for a vegetarian entree, it was punitive. Here's the little plate of broccoli that we don't care to actually, take care of for you. On all of these things that have led, at least to me, to a mindset of, I don't even know where to begin. It never even occurs to me. So by having certain items on the menu, I think is a great introduction to get people to think non-traditionally with stuff that's appetizing, while also, when you have the vegetarian or vegan within your group, giving them reason to be there and celebrate along with you. I think I got part of it. So how right am I or wrong am I on that? And what am I missing?
Absolutely. I mean, I come from a family of butchers, so I also was raised on meat, and I have been in the butcher shop with my grandpa growing up, seeing the cows in there. So I understand that. And actually, the only people who were born vegan who I know are my children. So most of the guests that are coming into these hotels that are requesting vegan options, they were not born vegan. And in fact, they might have come to your hotel a year ago, ordered the steak, and now they had a heart attack, and their doctor said, you're on a plant-based diet, right? So then they want to enjoy their vacation, and they need to be able to eat something and have that same kind of quality of experience that they experienced when they were the traditional guest. So there's a lot of selling points we could say. I'm not in the business of convincing anyone to change. What I really like to do is help hotels just get a little bit more in line with their own company values as far as their service to vegan guests, because hotels already have these values of inclusivity, of people first, of sustainability. They have these values, but when you really look at the culinary programming and the guest services for the vegan guest, you're really not usually living up to those values in that particular area. But regarding, understanding the mainstream guest as well, one vegan guest can bring in an entire party of people that are going to order all the other food on the menu, because everyone's got some vegan in their family or a vegetarian in their family or someone with food allergies in their family. And that is called, we call that the veto vote, where the vegan is typically the one who chooses where the whole group stays or where the whole group eats. And in order to overcome that veto vote, you need to be prepared. Another important selling point, and I don't even want to call it selling point, it's just really usually when I'm having conversations with chefs, the reason why they need support is because they already have vegan guests and yet they aren't prepared to serve them. And so what you get is this dance, this back and forth chaotic dance of the server comes over, starts asking questions about allergies, and the guest doesn't know what to say, and the back and forth, running back and forth to the kitchen. And then all of a sudden, the executive chef is meant to drop everything they're doing and create this customized dish for this one customer, where when you are prepared, you don't have that at all. The plant-based dishes are exactly like any other dish, and it's streamlined in the kitchen just the way that all the other dishes are streamlined. The servers are trained and everyone's happier. Both, the back of house, front of house, the guest, and the reviews are better and people are coming back. So it's just a much more fun and simple process overall when there's preparation involved.
Yeah, Suzanne?
That's definitely one of what I would consider to be the pain points that I've seen at a lot of event functions, where when we take what the menu requested item is in advance, or if we say we're going to a conference and what are your meal allergies or preferences, we've now collected that information. But I've seen more often than not, there's this disconnect now of how that gets translated to the service team and to the culinary team. And then you've got guests sitting at the table saying, well, I ordered my vegan option and now I'm not getting it, or the servers are confused. So can you shed a little bit more light for those that are struggling with that same issue? Because it's not just once I've seen it. This is like a pain point that I've seen at many locations. And so what are some of your strategies that can help hotel operators and restaurant operators to really make that pivot and make it more of a frictionless or seamless experience for the guests?
Well, we have seen recent research, an organization called Greener by Default, you might have heard of. They've done some research on events and catering, and actually making the plant-based option the default option for conferences increases the uptake for those options, doesn't decrease the satisfaction of the guest, rather than the way it is now, where the default is beef or chicken, and then you have to particularly request a plant-based option. So when you look at ordering in advance, having that plant-based option the default, and having to request meat just makes it easier, streamlined, because then you know that the plant-based option is going to be a good, solid option because everyone's getting it. And as far as buffet, thinking about the placement of the buffet, so looking at putting the plant-based options in the beginning of the buffet so people are filling their plate more with plants, and having those meat-based options at the end is also going to increase the uptake of the plant-based options on the menu. But as you mentioned, the staff training component is so important. And we need to remember that if you are going to update your menu and put a vegan option, or hopefully more than one vegan option on your menu, the front of house needs to be really aware of what that actually means. And they need to understand how to communicate with guests effectively. So that includes understanding why people go vegan, what are the reasons, because whether someone has allergies or has ethical concerns or is in it for the planet, these are conversations that the servers need to understand, what is going on here and why is this person requesting this kind of food? And then understanding certain specifics, like honey is not vegan. That's an often mistaken ingredient. So people might ask very specific questions like, what's in the salad dressing? And if that question can't be answered, you lose trust from that experience. So something that I work on through my company is we have a hotel certification program for hotels that welcome vegan guests. And within that certification program, of course, you have to meet a minimum standard of having a certain number of vegan options. But within that program, it's really meant to support the hotels with the staff training component. So we have a scalable staff training that is done online and can be scaled, tremendously throughout a whole bunch of hotels. So that way, everyone from front of house to marketing team, everyone, concierge, they're all on the same page about this. They understand what it means to be vegan. They understand the plant-based trend overall, and they can communicate with that same messaging. And they also get certified themselves. So they have that professional development opportunity too. So it does, I really believe in that strategic planning component and the scalability, rather than just having it done ad hoc, when you update your next menu, whenever you kind of feel like it.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing it that way. So it's great that you have to engage the entire staff, because it's got me thinking a little bit. If you just put it on the menu and kind of forget about it and leave it there, to me, it's the same kind of sentiment as when hotels put up the thing, we won't wash your towels unless you hang them here because we love the environment, when they don't really care about the environment. They're just trying to like save on some cleaning bills and stuff like that. So this feels a lot more genuine in that sense, as when a hotel has a real sustainability program and engages their employees in that. Meredith, now, if I'm thinking about putting together a menu or menu items, what's a good place to begin? What types of dishes should people be thinking about that cast a wide net of people that are both vegans and traditional eaters that'll make them happy?
The best place to begin is your own menu. So when we're doing menu evaluation, we start with what you have. We don't want to just start Googling what are the best trendy vegan dishes and adding those, because then we have food sourcing problems and we have food waste. What we want to do is look at what you have and try to streamline the dishes so much so that it's easy for your kitchen to maybe swap out the protein. So let's say you have a steak, potatoes, and broccoli. So you're just going to transition the steak to becoming a tofu steak, for example. Right. Of course, there are dishes that are going to appeal to everyone, like a rainbow noodle pad thai, for example, with some beautiful, colorful vegetables, poke bowls that you can use tofu instead of tuna. We can do smoothie bowls, acai bowls, all of those things, are the vegan dishes that everybody kind of likes.
I love that.
We've seen too many burgers, of course, on menus. All those, we like burgers, but not if it's the only option.
Right.
But we really do need to start with what do you have, and what is from down to, what does your plating look like? How do we streamline the plating so that the vegan dishes mirror the plating, so that it's just simple for your kitchen staff to be able to execute it, and the responsibility doesn't only fall on the executive chef to do this. Everyone in the kitchen should be trained to understand these vegan options are just like everything else.
I'm curious, are you finding experience that maybe some of this is being pushed from down up? Like there's a lot of younger staff members that are much more focused on, a good, healthy diet. Perhaps they're saying, hey, a lot of us are eating this way and you're not recognizing our community.
I haven't seen that much in my work, although I can imagine how that would happen. I connect mostly with owners of restaurants, with hotel executives that have been handed by corporate guidance a policy. For example, hotels have sustainability policies. I'm in conversation with a large corporation now that they have a company-wide policy for their events department that they need to offer plant-based menus. And they've left it to the chefs, individual hotel chefs, to figure out what that means. And they don't necessarily have that menu engineering background in how to engineer a menu specifically for those plant-based dishes. So the implementation is where it's really difficult. But I do think there is more of a top-down approach now to, okay, you need to do this. We know this needs to happen, and we need to transition by a certain date because everyone's making these commitments by certain dates. Now what? How do we actually get that done?
And I think to your point, that's a great concept and thought, right? So a lot of the chefs don't necessarily have the menu design engineering aspect, but from taking that a step further, what is the experience that you've encountered with those chefs having the product knowledge or the sourcing of the products? Because I feel like a lot of places that I go to, some folks will opt for that vegan option. And I know myself, I'm probably less hesitant to be adventurous and try because to your point, the plate doesn't look appealing or it's not presented the same. And so what type of guidance and recommendation do you offer or suggest to those folks trying to level up their plating?
Yeah, those are two of the biggest issues, is the lack of sourcing consistency and awareness, and also just not being aware of what these products taste like. And as you touched on, one of the biggest barriers in recent research to people actually choosing a plant-based dish is they are afraid they're not going to like the way it tastes, which of course makes sense. We crave familiarity. We crave comfort. So of course we want to order things that taste good, and we don't want to order something that's going to cost us a lot of money and then we just leave it on the plate or leave hungry, for example. But that's the same with the vegan guest too. I'm sometimes worried I'm going to order a vegan option and it's not going to taste good. It has nothing to do with me being vegan or not, because I know that a lot of times if a chef isn't vegan themselves, they haven't tasted the 15 different cheese brands that are out there and they don't know which one is the best one. They're choosing the easiest one to source or the cheapest one. They don't know which one melts the best on their pizza or how to prepare it. And that's why consulting can be really useful, particularly a consultant who is vegan themselves, because we just have thousands of hours of time cooking for ourselves and our families, and of course myself cooking for restaurants. But really the product knowledge, there's new products constantly coming out on the market, and it's impossible for a chef to be well versed in every single one of them if they're not trying them for themselves. So what I do recommend is for chefs to get curious, and also to start being mindful of your own biases, because you may have these biases. What does this food taste like from maybe 5 years ago you tried
Right.
food? Well, it's come a long way since then. And also
Yeah.
thinking about how can you make things from whole foods ingredients. You don't always need to go out and buy a pre-prepped burger. You can create your own. And, of course, it's going to depend on the ingredients you have access to, the time you have in your kitchen to do that. But there are some of the most amazing plant-based meats are fresh from scratch. And if you have the ability to do that, then it can be really fun to play around with. And I also recommend getting a vegan person to taste it for you. So I've had experiences where I've gone to work with chefs, and they've said, I found this mozzarella recipe on TikTok. I can't wait for you to try it. And I taste it and I'm like, sorry, chef, it doesn't taste like what it's supposed to taste like. And he's like, well, I thought it was pretty good, but his expectations were so low of what the vegan food was supposed to be like. He didn't understand that compared to what's out there, it's not comparable.
Yeah, it's almost like we put vegan in its own category. Like it doesn't count on the same level as real food that's out there, right? So if it's a 5, hey, that's good enough. But it should all be
not what we want
all along the way. And we can do that by being creative. Like for me, I mean, we're here in the hotel business, so we're no strangers to Indian food. I don't know what percentage of their vegetarian cuisine categorizes as vegan, but it opened my mind and blew me away to the types of flavors you could deliver without depending on meat and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely. Indian market is a huge market, and we have consultants in our network in India also pushing for vegan options, because it's just much easier to streamline your options to be vegan friendly, and vegetarians can also eat vegan food. So you're making really the most inclusive option. If you're making really good vegan food, that's going to be the most inclusive option because everyone can enjoy it.
Yeah, for real. Suzanne?
I was going to say the friends that I have come across that obviously follow a very strict vegan path of selection options, they are really appreciative to what you had said before of that trust in an establishment, and then that veto power, so to speak, in bringing their family. So maybe we could address some of the ways that we can develop that trust and maybe tout that, market that, bring that spirit and enthusiasm so that that passion then can transcend. What advice do you have that direction?
The best way to start building trust is to have an accurately labeled menu on your website, because a vegan guest will always look on the website before they show up. They need to know that they can eat something, and they want to know, how awkward is this conversation going to be when I get there? They might even call in advance and hope that the person who answers the phone understands what they're asking for. So you need to train the person who answers the phones, whether that's the host or manager, to understand how to relate to the vegan guests. And the answer can't be, well, our chef will figure it out when you get here. Just ask your server, because that's what we hear often as well. It needs to be, yes, here's what we make for vegan guests. Of course, if it's off menu, describe what the off menu dishes are available are. I've seen a lot of research lately around menu engineering and how labeling dishes can actually be a put off, a turn off for the mainstream consumer. So one suggestion I have for places that are, but we also really have to be conscious of people with allergies and people who really do need accurate information. And I don't think the trust should be placed on the servers. I don't think that that's fair to them. It shouldn't be their job to always be accurately conveying allergen information. What I think is, if you don't want to label your menu, you should have an unlabeled menu, but have a QR code on that menu that anyone can access. And it takes you to the same menu, but a labeled version of it with allergen information. And that just makes it really easy for everybody to do. So that's the kind of direction I'm moving forward in as I make new menus, is making sure we have both versions so that we don't lose out on customers, and we increase the uptake of plant-based options, but also we do really need to be accurate. And when you have a QR code menu, you're also able to easily update it. So you don't have to wait for a menu reprint, which can be a barrier when I'm working with clients. They don't want to reprint their menus all the time. So we want to make sure that we have that accessibility, but also that it's continuously updated, and make sure that it's always accurate.
I now am obligated to say, if you're going to do a menu on a QR code, which is great, but make it for the phone. Don't just do a PDF of a menu and expect me to be able to see it, understand it. You have a great opportunity out there to reinvent the connection to food, maybe with some vibrant photographs as well, in-depth descriptions, things that really pop and don't make me go, my eyes, I can't read anything.
Right. You can also have tabs where you're clicking on certain tabs. So you're able to click for gluten-free when you have it online, it's easy to filter. So that's another opportunity if you're going to create that as an option, to have clear filters where people can choose what they need as far as their dietary requirements.
That's cool. Hey, Suzanne, right. I love this comment. In the hotel I worked at, says Aleli Hernandez, we would write on the guest profile they're vegan and to recommend vegan options on our menu, or at least a place that's close by. I love that because it's showing that you're taking that little bit of extra effort to make sure that guest feels that they are included and part of everything. And I feel so compelled to just reemphasize it again. For so long, vegans and vegetarians have felt like they were the other, as opposed to being part of the environment that we were trying to create for folks. Yeah. Suzanne, you want to throw something else in there?
So I'd love to know, what is your favorite vegan dish?
Oh.
Wow. Well, I have 2 kids who like me to cook within 10 minutes. So when I'm cooking at home, it's mostly everything in the air fryer these days. And if you ask them, it's French fries. But for me, I really love, I love Thai food. So Thai food is really my favorite. I love curries. I love rice noodle dishes. And I really believe anything can be made vegan. There are so many ingredients out there and flavors where you can mimic those traditional flavors. So I've been, I've worked with French Caribbean restaurants and Italian restaurants and really in Cuban restaurants, any flavors you can really understand. It's from those spice blends. It's from those sauces. That's what makes something a signature flavor or a signature cultural cuisine. So I really believe that anything can be made vegan, and I've seen it, I've done it. And I love to see how far can we push things in the future as well.
Yeah, I love that. Now Aleli is adding that it helps perk up the guests and be excited to stay with us. And yes, that is what hospitality is all about. Again, I've said this 1,000 times. Everybody does not everything the same, 98, 99% of the way. The way you're going to connect with the customer in an emotional way that they tell the story of being with you are little things like that. The details that are easily overlooked, but wind up making the most impact in our lives. Meredith, tell us a little bit more before you go about how we can connect with you. I'm thinking maybe one day I could become a consultant in vegan hospitality. I know you can help with that sort of stuff. So share a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on here and I love to chat. So you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also go to veganhospitality.com and connect with me there. We have, like I said, the hotel certification program, and any hotel is welcome to apply. You get a free menu audit from it. So we'll take a look at your menus and let you know if you meet the minimum standards, and then connect with you on what you could do further if you haven't met those standards yet. I also do train consultants like you shared, although all of our consultants live a vegan lifestyle. So I train vegans around the world. Not yet, Glenn. Maybe you'll qualify one day. I see you have vegan wannabe as your title. And it's every vegan. The joke is every vegan at some point said, I could never go vegan. So that is the signature joke. But I do train consultants around the world. And I also am now looking to be in more conversations with corporations, hotel corporations that are looking to have help with implementation for these commitments that they've made, because what you're committing to is scalable, but it does need that strategic planning component from vegan specialists who can help to make sure that this is profitable for you.
Awesome. And make sure you find her at veganhospitality.com. And again, at her LinkedIn. Meredith, thanks so much. This has been so much fun.
Thank you, Glenn.
Really appreciate it. And we'll see you soon. And we'll see all of you guys soon out there. But before you do that, Suzanne, how are you feeling about vegan and hotels and all of this kind of stuff?
I'm feeling more adventurous now because after listening to Meredith, I feel as though there's been a greater level of attention plated up on those dishes. And so I'm willing to give that more of a shot and not just rely on my friends that are tasting it and giving me that heads up. So I'm going for it.
And hey, I may not be ready to go full vegan yet, but I am learning to incorporate many more plant-based meals into my lifestyle. And since I'm getting healthier, I'm out and exercising, and I know I like to listen to podcasts while I'm doing it. So why don't you follow our podcast while you're out and about? Subscribe wherever you get your shows. If you want to watch us, of course, you can watch us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and all shows are housed at novacancynews.com. Thanks everyone for being here. No live shows next week, as I'll be hosting the My Place event, and then the week after that, I'm doing TribalNet in Vegas. Jeez, conference season is picking up already, isn't it? So, all right, we got one life, so blaze on, and
follow your passion.
See you all later. At some point, look